have programs, agreements for that, supporting it, that, certainly used to be in the past. We have the leases, we have the tri-party agreements. They're permissible, at least they were passed by, passed muster at the New York Workers' Compensation Board, as well as Louisiana's, which are two of the worst in the United States, at least from my experience. And then what sums up, again, going back, what sums up your company, and are you using that that tagline? I ran through a lot of information. That's my contact. I'll be around afterwards. If anybody has any questions, please contact me anytime. Thank you very much.
All right, so I'll make this quick. Becker Legal has a transportation vertical, and they would love to talk to you about some of the stuff that they do. Pretty interesting stuff. A few of our producers work with them directly, and I'll give you a tape.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Sprong, and I'm an attorney and a partner with the law firm of Becker LLC. We're a full-service mid-market law firm in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, based there. We have a national practice, though, and we're uniquely committed to the transportation industry. And we're trusted advisors to our clients, and our lawyers practice in many areas of the law, such as contracts and business law, mergers, acquisitions, and succession planning for your business, employment law. Thanks, Ken, for the shout out on the employment. I'll see you after lunch for a little something for the effort. So there are hot topics in employment law, like driver retention. We can help you to determine how to not only just recruit drivers, but to keep your best drivers and keep your best recruiters. There's lots of issues out there too, obviously with Me Too, and with cannabis. If cannabis becomes legal, it's going to be a big issue for how it affects your drivers and how you test. And then the dreaded litigation and lawsuits. And so in that respect, we have three of the members, other members from our litigation group here. Joe Haraka is my partner, and we've worked together for more than a dozen years. And we have Jackie Olson and Barry Crane here as well, all litigators with us. And so if you have any questions, see us at the lunch, and we'll be happy to talk to you about it. What makes us different, though, is that we try to practice with the best practices, both from a business perspective and from a legal perspective in your industry, right? We have clients in your industry, and so that industry experience allows us to solve your problems more easily because we've seen them with other industry clients, right? A lot of your clients, or a lot of people in the industry are faced with the same issues. We always strive to do things in a cost-effective and transparent manner. We don't want to sort of have the only time you speak to us be when you get our bill. And I know that a lot of times lawyers get a bad rap for that, so we want to try to open ourselves up and partner with you to solve the problems that you may have. And we're always looking to do things with a way to add value to your business and to enhance your bottom line. Now, the thing I'm talking about this morning is the hardest way to do that, right? If you get sued and you're dealing with a lawsuit, what do you do next? And so what we try to do is to look at the situation positively, achieve a positive result, and to find a silver lining to ultimately make your business better and to try to help you learn from it and make your business go along. So the first thing you can do is if you get a lawsuit, no matter what it relates to, whether it relates to a sexual harassment case or an accident or some contract dispute, don't wait to address it. The legal system moves very, very slowly, but it does move, and it requires you to act. And so whereas we think in terms of months rather than days in our industry, and that's sometimes hard to manage, but we do need to address the lawsuit and not have, and not wait, because the court can do things to your company and potentially to you individually that are harder to undo than if you just simply address them when they come in. So you can have a judgment entered against companies. You can, if you're an owner, you can have a judgment entered against you, and you want to try to avoid that. Plus, there's a statute of limitations, which you may or may not know what that is, but that's a time frame that limits businesses from actually asserting claims. And if you wait too long, you may lose your opportunity to assert those claims in an effective way. Remember, litigation is all about leverage, right? Because 99% of lawsuits settle ultimately, what's called settle out of court. Well, it's like any other business negotiation, you always want to have the leverage. And one of the ways you can gain a lot of leverage in your litigation cases is to be on top of them. Rather than playing defense, the best defense is a good offense. Now, one of the things, and frankly, I want to thank Assured Partners for having us here. I'm honored here to be able to take a little bit of your time and tell you what we do. But insurance is a lot of the way that you're going to protect yourself against a lawsuit and the losses that can potentially result from a lawsuit. So we can help you, and certainly your brokers at Assured Partners can help you to determine whether your coverages are up to date and whether you have the right kinds of coverages for the businesses that you run and for the types of problems that you might have. So once you get a lawsuit, you need to notify your carriers immediately, and this is normally done through notifying your brokers, but you may need to make a more formal notice and work with your broker on doing that. Don't worry about any possible increased premiums. You gotta. That's what you have insurance for, right? You gotta try to help them or have them help you deal with the lawsuit. Over tender, you're basically tell every coverage you have, whether it's errors and omissions or general liability or employment practices liability, whatever might apply. Your auto policies or your vehicular policies, whatever might apply, tender all of them. And the worst thing that your carriers and your brokers can say is that you're not covered. And certainly have us or your broker review your coverages and your policies if you need to. You want to choose effective counsel, right? You want to partner with your lawyers just like you would partner with any of your other accountants or insurance brokers. You want to make sure that you use somebody not only who knows what they're doing, but who's going to work with you to help you understand where this is going. And so you want someone who has a knowledge in the legal area, and you want to have someone who has knowledge in the industry. And try not to wait. This is for me, so that my weekend doesn't get ruined. Try not to wait for the last minute to contact your attorney, because again, a lot of times there are deadlines, even though it moves sometimes at a glacial pace. Most lawsuits, you're looking at 18 months to 3 years before there's resolution. But at the outset of a lawsuit, there are things that need to get done right away, again, to create that leverage and have you be in a better position to achieve a positive result. So the first thing you have to do is investigate your claims, and certainly, OnTrack showed you a way to do that effectively through its camera systems, but you want to try to gather all the information, both pro and con, right? Lawyers, in order to most effectively help you, they need to know everything, because there's almost nothing, and you can tell just from the last 5 minutes I like to talk. So, I mean, there's almost nothing that I can't help you get around if I know about it. If I don't know about it, and it surprises us, then we're going to have a tougher time dealing with it. So we want to gather information, both pro and con, and be fully forthcoming and don't conceal information. Depending on what kind of matter it is, you may want to do a formal documented investigation to find out what happened, and certainly, in an accident situation, the tapes and the cameras can help you with that. In an employment situation, you'll have to go out and interview the employees and managers involved, so there can be a formal investigation that may be necessary. Also, when you face a lawsuit, you may have to, and you probably should, suspend all of your ordinary technology deletion and archive processes, because you want to make sure that things that might be important or might be related to the lawsuit don't get lost because every 6 months or every year you archive or delete certain information off your computer system. So you want to have that information retained, mostly because it can help you, and also because the courts require it, right? Nothing hurts a company. Remember, a lot of times in a lawsuit, especially if you have a driver or an employee against a company, a lot of times the company's viewed almost inherently as the bad guy, right? So if you're deleting information, they're going to think that that was on purpose, when it might have been only part of your ordinary deletion processes. So you want to suspend those. And then also make sure, if you have multiple companies and you have different companies that handle different parts of the industry, make sure the right entity has been sued. Because lawyers on the other side, they don't always know what the right company name is or what your exact company name is. So make sure you're not answering on behalf of an entity that really isn't you. I had one the other day where there were two entities, one in Missouri and one in Minnesota, and a lawsuit came in and nobody was really sure which one it was directed to. So it happens. Then you want to evaluate with your attorney your claims and defenses, because again, a lot of times the best defense is a good offense, right? So if you have a contract lawsuit against a supplier, for example, maybe you have claims back against that supplier. So you have to evaluate whether or not you have those claims, or whether other third parties are responsible, and that's going to come into play a lot of times in lawsuits involving accidents where there are other drivers involved. And so are there any other parties that might help you to defray or defer the liability or to share the liability for the incident, no matter what it has to do with on other parties. Sometimes you want to consider whether there's a jury trial. Most people in our situation don't want to have the jury trial because, again, there's sort of that inherent, companies are bad kind of instinct among juries. And so one of the best things you can do with a litigation is consider the cost versus the risk. Listen, sometimes if you get sued, a lot of times it becomes very emotional. You want to dig in and you want to say you didn't do anything wrong, but the reality is that a lot of times cases settle. Really, it's 99 out of 100, 999 out of 1,000 really do settle, ultimately. So you want to realistically impact or consider the impact that the lawsuit's going to have on your other resources. You still want to do business. You still have to do business. And you can't sink all of your time or all of your people's time into the litigation because they need to be doing, you can't make it a full-time job. And so you want to evaluate a litigation budget. Lawyers will, there's an H&R Block commercial that talks about getting your taxes done, and they say, well, I'll tell you after the lawsuit or after the taxes are done how much it's going to cost. No, that's not good, right? You want to talk with your lawyer up front to give you a budget as to how much the lawsuit's going to cost, and you can evaluate that at a very early stage against an early settlement and trying to pay and making what's a business decision to pay, even if you think you don't have any liability, rather than incur the costs. Now, sometimes if you have good insurance, this won't be an issue, right? Because you'll have a deductible and that'll be the max that you're going to pay out of pocket. But if it doesn't, if one of your policies aren't implicated, then I think you really have to do that cost benefit at an early stage and all during the 3 years that you might be involved in a lawsuit. And also define what the parameters for winning are, because winning might mean that the lawsuit is dismissed against you, but it's going to cost you $200,000 in legal fees. That's not something that's a win for a lot of people. So you have to think about what a win means and try to take the emotion out of it. Also, you have to consider the non-monetary concerns, right? You have to consider whether there is publicity, whether you're going to take too many people away from their other work by dealing with the lawsuit. And then sometimes you want to send a message that you can't sue me, and if you do sue me, I'm going to fight you. And so I've had clients who fight just because of the message that it sends to the industry and to the other people in their organization to show that they're not willing to be pushed and that they will fight any lawsuit that comes in. You also have to consider, the impact of this on what your long-term business plan and goals are and how it's going to affect that. So a lot of this is really just a business decision at the early stage of this litigation. But it is just a business decision that you try to have to take to remove the passion from it and remove the personal element from it and make it's just business. And this is true not only at the outset of a litigation, but all through the litigation. You want to make sure that you or the person in your organization who's responsible for working with the attorneys to direct the litigation stay in touch with the attorneys throughout so that they make good decisions. And because during the course of a lawsuit, there's a number of opportunities that come along to settle a case. And you never know when the scale is going to tip from proceed to settle. And so you want to evaluate those opportunities all throughout the litigation. And what we do a lot of times, and what we encourage our clients to do, is to budget an actual cost, do an analysis of how much the lawsuit was supposed to be costing you and how much it's actually costing you, so that you can maintain that, and it helps you stay involved and to just run the litigation and the lawsuit like it's any other part of your business. And also look for those opportunities during the course of the case to settle. So I basically just gave you 3 years in 3 minutes. So, so there are lots and lots of things to know about litigation, and a lot of those things you can leave to people like us, to the lawyers to deal with. But I've always found that people who are involved and people who partner with their lawyers are going to be much happier during the course of the lawsuit. Their expectations are going to be managed from the very outset, and everybody's going to come to a good result. And then we can move on to what went wrong, why the lawsuit happened, and what we can do to avoid them in the future. So certainly we'll be around. I know we were running a little bit late on time, so but we'll be around for lunch. So if you have any questions, you can let us know, and we'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thanks.
All right, that was fantastic. We got the best for last, Bob Esposito. If you don't know him, he's the guy you want to know. He's going to make your insurance rates go down. He's the one that really brings on-tracks and the legal stuff, and he brings it all together to help you save money. He's the guy crunching the data and making everything possible for you to save money year after year on your insurance rates. So without further ado, I'll give you Bob Esposito.
I want to start off by saying I've been real fortunate in my career. I got 35 years of experience in this industry. I started off loading trucks in Hunts Point Market to where I am today. And the last 2 companies I actually was associated with, they were on cutting edge when it came to risk management and safety. I was with the Lindy Group for over 20 years, and I was with a company, an insurance company, that was, I would actually say, state of the art. I was ahead of the game on a lot of this stuff. That taught us and myself a lot of very good people in this industry. We implemented cameras back in 2005 when I was with Lindy. Well, most people didn't even know what was going on with cameras. Okay. My last company we were with, we were implementing cameras for every insured we had. They had to have the cameras, or we weren't insuring them. Also, the next thing that's coming up now is side guards. If you run in certain cities, you don't have side guards on your truck, they're not going to insure you. This is things that are going on in the industry. And it's getting costly, more and more costly for the carriers. So we have to create things that drive the cost down. Okay? But just real quick on on-tracks. I've dealt with a lot of camera companies. And the reason why I endorse them fully is because when I was in Houston, for instance, last week, or the Carolinas or anywhere, I pick up the phone, when do you want me here? Other companies, they would just ship you the stuff with instructions to put it in the truck, and that would be it. They're a local company here in New Jersey, so companies in this area, they're, what, an hour from here? Right. So, and their software is very good. Okay? And the biggest trick about cameras in your trucks is how you implement them. How you talk to your drivers prior to putting them in. Okay? some companies will just say, I'm slapping cameras in a truck, if you don't like it, go find another company and go for it. That's not the way you do it. And we found that out at Lindy, okay? As far as like what Ken was saying, driver retention. If you all saw on Facebook, as soon as Falcon said they were going out of business, how fast were other companies on that Facebook page saying, I'll pay for your hotel, your cars, and get you set up and get you rolling. They were on top of their game with social media, okay, getting the ball rolling for these guys already. So that's the climate that we are in today when it comes to drivers. Risk management, the problem with risk management, we found out, is risk management is always called in after the fact. Good companies are ahead of the game. And when you go into these companies, you'll see your safety manager is doing the work of 7, 8 people. Okay? Your risk manager will be doing what compliance officers should be doing. Okay? Your safety managers are doing a lot of things, and there's a lot of weight on their shoulders. So you have to look back and say, is my safety managers really doing what I want them to do? I come in to assist you, to help you. If you want, that's what we do. We're not here to take your safety manager's job. We're there to work with them. We will give them resources to work with. Okay? And as I go through my presentation here, there will be certain points that I will show on when we hire drivers, what we look for and stuff like that. Okay? So moving forward here, we're going to discuss the principles of risk management methods, risk avoidance, reduction, transfer, acceptance, specific examples of dealing with risk. Lots of times a producer don't mind seeing rollovers and stuff like that, because that brings up the premium. Our last company we were with, I happened to work with Trevor Manzi with for many years. Our job was to bring it down, because when we got in front of the underwriter, because Trevor was the guy that would go to the underwriter, when we got in front of the underwriter, we showed them how all their data was going down, how they were transforming the company, how they implemented risk management, and the underwriter knew when we were dealing with them, it was no joke. Now, when we dealt with Travelers, when we dealt with other companies, when they saw that we were in there first, they didn't even send their risk management people. Because they knew the job that we did prior to them getting there. Now, if you do have, for the producers, if you do have companies that you're interested in a prospect, give us a call. We will get them ready for that insurance. We will make sure their manuals are ready. We will make sure every policy they're supposed to have in place, when the insurance company asks for it, it's right there on the table. So we can assist producers on getting the company ready to get in front of the insurance company. Okay? Risk management is a practice of recognizing, assessing, controlling, reducing, and eliminating potential threats to the company. That's exactly what we do. In OSHA, you would call that a competent person, because I also do construction. Okay, with Lindy, we dealt with dealing big ASU plants and stuff like that. Okay? That's a competent person. A qualified person is one that has the power to make the change, the engineering degree. Okay? Who has the responsibility of safety management and all in the company? Who has it? Everyone does. Everyone in your company should have the power to see a risk and let somebody know of what's going on. So of course, everyone. Roles. Management establishes policy that reduces risk. Okay, risk management, safety deals directly with risk management. Supervisor, personal comply with enforce. Risk reduction policy, drivers comply with risk. The biggest one here, right, is establishing policies. And I have a statement at the very end. If you own a company, and if you write a policy, and you don't force that policy, you don't have a policy. Like Ken was saying earlier, if you have a driver that's taking out 6 or 7 drivers a year, why would you want that guy? If you have a guy you see on a camera, hard braking, 8, 9 times a day, you sat down with him several times. But that's another key issue. How do we coach when we see that video? When I was with Lindy, we were sent to school for 10 weeks on how to read videos. And lots of times, we found that the city, municipality, or state was liable for that accident, or partial liability. Such as a tree blocking a stop sign. The road was not iced, it was not assalted. We went and checked records of when the salt machines were out there. That goes back to doing a very good investigation, getting your safety crew on the ground, doing an investigation right after the incident, right? Getting them out there, doing that investigation will save you lots and lots of money sometimes, and will help out the attorneys. That's part of risk management. Risk management is not sitting in the office, okay, and making things up. You got to be with the drivers. You want your risk managers in the truck with the driver. Okay? Case in point, we had a software program by another vendor that would give brake applications per mile. We found one driver that was hitting his brakes 125 times for every mile he drove. We got in the truck, what was going on? When he was sitting at a traffic light, he was pumping the brakes. Okay? So you see stuff like that. Okay? So that's what a risk management does. Again, risk management is not making sure the company has enough insurance or the right type. Risk management does not settle claims or try to find ways to not pay the claim. That's compliance people. That's APT. We figured that out. Risk management begins with a good risk assessment, such as our on-ramp that's coming out now. It's a great tool that you're going to have a gap analysis in there. It is a great tool to look at, to do analysis on your company and see where your gaps are. But the trick with that is you have to be honest with yourself. Okay? You have to be honest with yourself when you fill out an analysis form. Risk assessment is a structural system to determine actual potential risk. Now, I'm thinking about the CSA platform right here. It is going to be coming out now. It was just released in June that they're going to be coming out with the new methodology when it comes to the CSA. CSA is going to be looking at your vehicle maintenance. That is going to be tying into your crash rating now. If you can't put tires on that truck, you cannot fix lights, you have brakes out of adjustment, CSA is going to look at that as a potential risk for a crash now. So this is a new thing that's coming out in June. You guys can, there's a lot of good stuff with the Truckload Association and ATA. They're actually, I believe they're just putting out an invitation for a meeting, I think, I don't know if it's going to be in Vegas or what. They're going to launch this out, how the new program's going to work. Also, risk assessment can be based on internal and external experience and data. One thing I tell you, I don't know, Amtrak wants to hear this. People who own trucking companies, be careful about that data. They're taking your data and selling it. You may want to keep that data in-house. Okay? So just be careful with the data. This sounds crazy, just like Tesla. Tesla just got caught. Every time you plugged in your Tesla car, the data from your car was being sold to an offshore company in China somewhere. Okay? Be careful about the data.
What are they going to do with the data if they take it? What are the risks?
They're selling it. They are determined. For instance, Facebook will buy it. They know that a lot of Teslas will drive by, people that have Teslas will drive this route. And all of a sudden you'll see pop-up ads for candy stores, I'm just saying that, for different things on that route and all. Okay? They're seeing how fast you drive, okay? All that type of stuff. And it's also, too, how many times you go by a charging area, that may pop up. So that was Elon Musk, that came out, I think, about 3 weeks ago, that happened. Yeah. Okay, best practices. Now, a comparison analysis, look at the company's operations compared within the industry. That is what we did. When we look, risk management goes in and looks at your policies. Are you providing best practices for that industry? Like fuel haulers. Do you have a no whistle, no fill policy? Okay? Transportation. Do you have a good drug policy? okay? Stuff like that. Are you doing best practices? Okay? So that is all being looked at by underwriters today. When the producer brings the paperwork, are they in best practice? I can't tell you how many companies, I can't tell you, probably out of 1,000, out of 1,000 submissions, how many do you think we would pass?
Like 10 to 20%.
10 to 20%. Just on failure to do best practices within the industry. Common risk analysis looks at known risk in Pacific Industries to review the company's efforts to reduce these known risks. Again, techniques that we can use. We can use techniques to quantify the risk present at a carrier. In other words, what this is, we will look at the MVRs. And we will see if you have a good MVR policy. We see companies that will hire guys that had a DUI within 6 months of getting a license back. Okay? We will see risk where, oh, don't worry about it. We got this guy, he got a careless driving ticket, but it wasn't in the truck. Okay? So, again, past performance is not always a guarantee of future performances. Combination of techniques given a truer picture of risk level at a carrier. Appetite for risk also a factor during the assessment. Any questions so far? Everybody okay so far? Okay, appetite for risk, 3 meanings. Willing to knowing accept more or less risk than others. Willing to know. OSHA is getting more and more involved into 49 CFR. I don't know if you guys have seen this. OSHA is getting more and more, and a lot of the 49 CFR is involving 1926 and 1910. Willing to knowingly accept more or less of a risk, that is a bad word within OSHA. That will put you on a very bad list. Okay? An attitude that leads to accidental acceptance or risk can't be helped. It's just the way it is. And I've talked to industry owners who will just say, hey, we're expecting 3 injuries this year on workman's comp. That's not the things to say. But some people do have that attitude. But gladly it's changing. It's changing, it's changing. We want 0 tolerance. Common risk of carriers are vehicle accidents or cargo claims, driver injuries, theft of equipment or cargo, breach of contract claims, and non-compliance punishment and fines. When I had my own little small trucking company going down in Florida, I can't tell you how many times in Florida, I was in Orlando, how many times I would get a phone call from Osceola County to please pick up one of their stolen trailer that was behind a Publix grocery store or something like that, and then bring it to a Pacific storage yard. Okay? It's good to have GPS on the trailers to find out where they're at. And the most often